We'll just start with say and spell your name.
Francis J. My nickname is Bud. Richardson III. That's Francis J. Bud, B-U-D, Richardson III.
Thank you.
MBA.
Nice. Where did you grow up?
First 60 years of my life in New Orleans, and the last 13 years of my life here.
Oh, okay.
I was a transplant by Katrina.
I did not know that.
My daughter was here with her 2 grandsons, and I came here for 3 days, and when I wanted to go back home, there was no home to go to.
Wow.
Hurricane Katrina destroyed it completely. And
where was your home in New Orleans?
my home was in Metairie, right across the West Napoleon Canal from Rummel High School.
Wow.
Right on the West Napoleon Canal. And I had 2 feet of water standing in my apartment for 3 weeks. And the miracle was when I get back there 3 weeks later, I opened the front door, and I left extra food and water for my little parakeet. I hear chirp, chirp. I said, that bird made it through the hurricane in 3 weeks.
Tough bird.
Oh, yeah, tough bird. So,
oh, wow.
So and my computers all worked. My hi-fi and stereo were all above the level of where the water was. The water came up 2 feet, but the mold went up 2 feet above that. So it was pretty rough. So
yeah.
I grabbed what I could and went back, but the cost to me was I had developed diabetes and neuropathy of the feet and double cancers. So I'm a cancer survivor.
Oh, wow.
No, hurricane survivor.
Yeah.
But I was in my father's house when Hurricane Betsy hit, and it blew the roof off of the house. I mean, it was a 125-year-old cottage with slate roof held down by hand-cut nails, and I could hear this thing. And my room was on the 2nd floor, and I'm hearing this thing sound like a machine gun, and the 125-mile-an-hour wind from Hurricane Betsy would grab the edge of one of these slate roof tiles and rip it all the way up to the top of the roof, and then all dumped in the side yard.
Wow.
So my dad and I were both engineers, so we got out there first thing next morning. We put a new black tar roofing on the house to save it from being completely drowned.
Yeah.
But I've had somebody commented. I said I had a very interesting life. I worked on the Saturn missile project in '64 and '65. And I redesigned a cabling bracket that went on Bird 5 of the Saturn V missile thrust structure that put the first man on the moon. I said, hey, I did that while I was working my way through school.
Not everybody can say that.
No.
Wow.
And then I worked for IBM for 5 years, and they trained me as a mainframe systems engineer. And then they said, well, we've hit a national slowdown, we can't use you. I said, and they gave me an MBA, a year of law school, and so they paid for all that stuff. So I said, that's great. So they said, well, what do you think I should do? I said, well, you got your MBA, and it's mostly focused on finance. So I said, try banking. And they said, our bank is First NBC in New Orleans. So I went to them, and I started working with them, And I ended up as a bond portfolio service producer and director. And I built a service to 55 banks in 3-state area. 45 of them in Louisiana alone. Oh, wow. But I did all of their own bank's investment portfolio reports every month for their general ledger. And it was a it was a rush. But I also helped redesign and cleaned up the program. And then, like I said, I took it out and I sold it to a lot of banks. Yeah. And then I ended up as a trust investment department manager, and I ran a $300 million portfolio for them. So I bought and sold $1 million a day in equities. So between a $750 million accounting system and a $300 million bond portfolio, I could say I'm $1 billion investment manager.
There we go. So I heard you say earlier that you obviously, after Katrina, you came back to Lafayette. Is there a reason Lafayette in particular is why?
Well, and I celebrate the fact that I'm here.
Yeah.
Because I'm a quarter German, half French, and an eighth English and an eighth Irish. So, but both of my grandmothers were French, and I traced their heritage back to 1716 in New Orleans. You know, I got birth, death, and marriage certificates from St. Louis Cathedral, and I've done other research where I've got the family back to 1500 in Paris, French Cincinnati Society. But my great uncle was French Admiral Viscount Arnaud Lagardère d'Artilly, who fought alongside General George Washington for the independence of this country. Wow. I said, wow. I said, that's what you call a heavy patriotic heritage. You know?
Definitely.
So I belong to the 4th degree Knights of Columbus, and we call ourselves the patriotic degree. Gotcha. So that's why the Sir, you know.
Oh, okay.
The title for a 4th degree Knight is Worthy Sir Knight.
Gotcha.
So haven't been knighted by a queen or anybody else like that. So. But I do belong in another order, and it's called the Military and Hospitaller Order of St. Lazarus of Jerusalem. And we are the oldest Christian chivalry ecumenical order in the world. And our origins go back to 900. And we were the leper hospital night protectors outside the gates of Jerusalem. Wow. So, I mean, and that's our charity. It was the leper hospitals, you know. Sure. We gave a statue and some traveling carts, you know, to Carville, which is our leper hospital here. Right. But since now they call it Hansen's disease instead of leprosy, and most of it's been cured. Right. You know? So, man. But anyway, while I was in between jobs in New Orleans, I'm standing in the employment bureau, and it says, take a picture, be in a movie. I said, all right, you know, some's better than none. They said, pay you $50 and you get fed for the day. So this was 1980. Okay. So I signed up. They had the little Polaroid picture taken, and they put me on the wheel. And at the end of the week, they called me. They said, well, we need you to be in this movie pilot called Hard Case. So we want you to be at the Bisso towing dock on the back of Audubon Park, 5 p.m. on a Friday night, and you'll work 5 till 5 a.m. on a Saturday morning. So I get out there, we're milling around, and they see me and they see Mickey Rourke, who was playing the bad guy, and he said, you're the same size and, you know, coloring and everything as Mickey Rourke. I said, you're going to be Mickey Rourke stand-in. So instead of working as an extra for one day, I worked as a stand-in for the entire movie. Wow. And an extra only got paid $50 a day then. Right. But a stand-in got paid $100. Nice. So I made about $2,500. You know.
That's not bad for just.
And you know the stuff where they put tape, T tapes. Well, the T tapes are where they put the stars, and the director places them, and then once they're placed, they put the T tapes, and then we come in and we call the second team, and we're the stand-ins. So then, while they're off studying their lines, we would stand there and they would focus the cameras and the lighting and everything else. So we helped save their energy, so to speak. Sure. But it was fun seeing everything. I mean, I'd never seen any movie made before, you know. So here I am watching all this stuff going on around me, and I'm seeing it from the point of Mickey Rourke. Sure. You know?
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So it was cool. So.
Definitely.
Yeah. So the last thing I did for New Orleans the day before Hurricane Katrina, we were shooting the movie called La Bou, L-A-B-O-U, and it was a children's movie, and it was about a mystical swamp creature and treasures and pirates and stuff like that, and they had me playing an 1800s French settler in a bar, talking about pirates and silver and gold and everything else, you know. Yeah. And we were right next to Pirates Alley, you know, right next to the cathedral in downtown New Orleans. And the interesting part was one of the last scenes in the movie, we're holding sabers up and we're chasing the pirates. And so I said, look, one for all and all for one, you know, just like the Musketeers, because there were 3 of us with swords. Yeah. So we chased a pirate down Pirates Alley, and we had plenty of man-made mist. And the pirate gets on his fake ship at the end of Pirates Alley.
Of course, yeah.
So we can't get to him. But that was fun though. Yeah. But then I go home and I said, I've been up all night shooting this movie, you know, and I was getting ready to sleep all day. And they said, well, my daughter called me and said, Dad, there's a Category 5 hurricane heading right for you, right. Katrina. So he said, okay, well, I'm going to go sleep for a couple hours, have something to eat, and then I'm going to head your way to Lafayette.
Sure.
So that brought me here. So
you came back.
So fortunately, I wasn't in New Orleans when Hurricane Katrina hit.
Could have been a different story.
It could have been a different story.
Definitely.
Because it tore the roof off of the building out of it.
Oh, wow.
So all the water came down 3 stories and ended up in my apartment.
Oh, no. So tell me how you first got involved with AOC once you made it to Lafayette. Well,
I had a lot of tapes that I had made. I had gone on medical mercy mission to Bosnia and Zagreb and Medjugorje with a doctor, a psychologist, who was bringing medical and surgical supplies to the warfront hospitals in those 3 places, and we were donating it. So we put together $1 million worth of medical and surgical supplies and brought it over there and just gave it to them.
Yeah.
And we walked into Zagreb, and basically what I'm doing is I'm his assistant and I'm his cameraman.
Gotcha.
So I filmed him for whatever he did, what places he went, people he talked to.
Right.
And it was 16 hours of stuff. So when I brought that back here, I said, what can I do with this? And then I started finding out about you all, AOC, and met all the people down here. And everybody was so nice and so helpful too, so it was great. So I said, okay, look, I want to have this show, and I want to air stuff about Medjugorje and about this medical mercy mission that we took there. And so I said, I got lots of material to go with, So I cut the 16 hours down to 4 one-hour shows. And I got them all on one DVD. And I was shocked that they would all even fit,
Yeah.
So I brought that down here, and they said, well, let's see, a 4-hour show, that'll run never. I said, okay. That's when I started cutting it down,
Yeah, it's hard for us to put.
So I said, even an hour is kind of hard to squeeze into the schedule. And, your executive director, Ed, told me, he said, Bud, if you can cut it down to real small pieces, we can get it run lots of times.
Yeah.
So we made a deal. I think I try to run 26-minute shows, so it has enough time for the tag, and can run often enough and be placed often enough. So
absolutely.
So every time I did a Acadiana open channel, channel 15 and 16 broadcast, it was 26 minutes, and it worked out fine with you all. Worked out fine for me too. So
very cool. What surprised you most about AOC?
The ease of everything to do here. I mean, and the helpfulness of people, and I mean, gosh, I said this looks so easy. Well, I found out in details. The devil's in the details.
Yeah.
So I said, when you come down to film editing, it's just a little step further than what you might imagine.
Yeah. Definitely.
And I also found out that film editing is not what you call intuitive with too many softwares. You know. So I did stuff with Pinnacle Studio Plus 11 for 3.5 years. And it was great, And the stuff that I could do was fine for what I wanted to do,
Definitely.
Now I have version 19 at home. So I'm starting to relearn it.
What is your dream project to work on?
Oh, I don't know. What was it? Some famous man said, "May your life be interesting." And I said, and wherever the Lord wants me, So I try to keep my spiritual base, daily focused on my church services and prayers and spiritual warfare. And I think we're probably in a time of spiritual warfare, as you might see from what goes on in Washington and the rest of the world, So, but a dream project?
Yeah.
You mean in terms of a film project?
Sure, or anything you want to produce. Or.
Well, basically my genre is religious documentary. So something that would help save souls and give people hope, and like I say, our universal prayer is for peace in the world, peace in people's hearts. And our promise when we came back from Medjugorje was that you would have peace in your hearts, but not necessarily peace in the world. So the Lord said He would give us peace, but we would not necessarily be in a place of peace. So,
it's very, very true.
yeah.
What are you looking forward to for the rest of 2017?
I've been cleaning up my stuff that I brought back. I finally brought back all the final boxes that I had in storage in Metairie that were left over from my, flooded apartment in Metairie from Katrina. And I'm now going through them and sorting them out and trying to find some of the great stuff that I've saved. I mean, I've been a bank operations consultant and a business management consultant and an investment consultant for over 25 years, and computer systems consultant too. So I've got great stuff stored up, saved up, and I'm also a financial analyst. So I try to keep all sorts of data, information on on things and companies and everything. So, but it's interesting.
Very cool.
It's interesting.
What are you reading right now?
I'm reading a fantastic book by Scott Hahn called The Lamb's Supper. And Scott has got the most incredible, intuitive, Holy Spirit inspired vision of what the daily Mass is. And he's the only person I've ever seen in my lifetime, and I'm 74, that has compared the Mass detail by detail with the book of Revelation in the Bible, which is fascinating. I mean, I've always been fascinated by Revelation. In fact, I was too fascinated. Every year I've been into Manresa Holy Week retreats for 40 years now. My dad started it, and so he brought me in at 3 or 4 years after it started. But for 3 or 4 years, I was reading all the books I could get on Revelation. So the Lord gives me this message. He said, read Job 30. I said, I think I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
And when I read Job 30, I knew I was in deep trouble.
Yeah.
Because basically Job 30 says, when I spread out the roots of the earth and to set the boundaries for the sea, where will you answer me? Where was your input back then? So I said, okay, Lord, I'll back off on the Revelation stuff. He said, basically, quit trying to figure out God. You just accept him as he is because he just gives you everything. So someone once said, there's nothing you can do to make God love you more than he does, and nothing you can do that'll make him love you less. So he loves you perfectly, infinitely, unconditionally. I said, hey, you can't ask for anything more.
No, you can't. I always heard that I give, for lack of a better word, phrase that I always have is, you can try to push God as far as away that you can, but you'll never get him farther than here. You can't, as farthest you can push him, he's still going to be right there. You can't push him farther, no matter how much you try. So he's always going to be there.
Well, Jesus promised that he would always be with us even to the end of time. Yeah. So somebody said, if you feel like God is farther away from you, guess who moved?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's talk music. Who do you have to listen to if you have?
Well, I'm a jazz baby. I started listening to jazz. I lived on Henry Clay Avenue in New Orleans, and right across on a corner, and right across the street from me was the ATO house. And a couple of my ATO fraternity brothers, I ended up joining them when I went to Tulane. Were jazz musicians with a group called the Last Straws. And they used to practice on Sunday afternoon in my backyard. I had one guy who was playing a wash tub bass, another guy with the banjo, and another one with a little snare drum,
Sure.
But fantastic bunch of musicians. I mean, awesome music. So I went to study in Germany in '66 at the Goethe Institute, and so I got the key to the city of New Orleans, several of them, to bring to people that I was going to be, meeting over there.
Sure.
And so I set up a meeting with the governor of the state of Bavaria and the mayor of Munich, Hans-Joachim Vogel, and I brought him an album of the Last Straws, and my favorite of all albums, it's the Dukes of Dixieland and Louis Armstrong. And that's some of my favorite music. That and the Bee Gees. Those are two of my staples.
Yeah.
As if ever I got to work real hard and I don't want to shut out everything else, I just either play the Bee Gees or the Dukes of Dixieland. both ways.
Gets
And
you
also,
going.
I just bought a new a DVD, and it was hard to find, but High Society, and it was the last movie that Grace Kelly was in.
Yeah.
But you got Bing Crosby, Grace Kelly, you know,
Yeah.
and Frank Sinatra in Newport, Rhode Island.
Yeah. There you
So,
go.
you know,
Yeah.
and playing jazz with Louis Armstrong. You know, what's to lose,
Yeah.
you know?
What more could there be?
Yeah. So, but I play myself.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
I've been playing guitar off and on for about 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
And I play acoustical, electrical, classical guitar with the Life Teen Band. And I played 2.5 years in Metairie, and now I've played 2.5 years here.
Yeah.
You know, and at both places, the priest that was head of our group went somewhere else, and so the new priest didn't like our group, so he threw us out. I said, okay, that's all right. At least we did a good job for the kids.
There you go.
You know.
As a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, I'm a fourth-generation engineer and a fourth-generation Navy man. So I wanted to be a Navy fighter pilot and an astronaut. So I got close to both, you know. So I did Navy ROTC at Tulane. Oh, I started my military career when I was 12 years old.
Oh, wow.
I started marching with the drill team for the Civil Air Patrol cadets at the Lakefront Airport in New Orleans. And they gave me my whole pilot training program. By the time I was 13 years old, I was a fully trained pilot.
What?
I had all the ground school done, you know, all the studies and everything.
That's impressive.
Free, you know.
At 12?
Well, no, I was 13 when I
13.
finished.
That's
but I started when
impressive.
I was 12.
Sure.
But I was an airman, second class, in the Civil Air Patrol Air Force Auxiliary when I was 13 years old.
Very cool.
And a fully trained pilot.
Yeah.
You know.
Very cool.
So we got, but my dad had a shipyard in Golden Meadow called Gulf Offshore Fabricators, and he was a naval architect, marine engineer, and so we would fly from Industrial Canal down to Golden Meadow and land at Bayou Lafourche, and just go, you know, taxi into the shipyard. And what they would do was, it's a pontoon plane, so they would get the pontoon plane up in the air, and they'd say, all right, bud, you know, you can fly it. So I'm sitting there flying the airplane.
Yeah.
They just told me what to point to, you know, and so I would fly this pontoon plane with my dad and the pilot,
Yeah.
you know, and
pretty
it was
cool.
fun.
Very cool.
Yeah. So,
I
oh,
never-
also my dad, since he was an engineer, he made me my first bicycle, and it was a little tubular pipe thing, and the drive was a rubber belt, you know, and it was so close to the ground, he didn't have to put training wheels on.
Yeah.
So at 4 years old, I'm riding around on my bicycle. And he parked one of his trucks from his engineering company out in front of the house on Broadway. And I was 5 years old, so I toddled out there and I climbed into the car. And I turned on the ignition piece, and it was in gear.
Oh,
so
no.
the truck starts going down the street. So I started driving when I was 5 years old.
Oh, my God.
But he taught me how to drive when I was 9 years old, when I was
Yeah.
coming back from Boy Scout camp.
Yeah.
And to make it interesting, he said, all right, now that I've taught you how to drive, you have to drive the whole family back home on the old Maestri Bridge. 2 lanes going each way for 5 miles. I said, I'm going to kill the whole family. But it worked out okay. So.
But you guys made
Yes.
it safely.
Right.
If you could have dinner with 5 famous people from history or from life, who would they be?
Pope John Paul II, our Lord Jesus, Blessed Virgin Mary. Hard to say. Those would be the main focus.
Sure.
Be spiritual, you know. So,
What's your superpower?
what do you mean?
What gives you an edge over other people, or what separates you, or what's
I think the Lord has given me I guess something sort of an incisive mind, you know. And it didn't hurt to have a year of law school.
Yeah.
So I learned to, you know, and to cut to the issue.
Very cool.
Yes. So,
That is a good power.
but I'm a financial analyst. I'm a computer systems analyst, a bank operations analyst.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know,
Yeah.
I used to say an analytical mind. You know.
Definitely, you'd have to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's one thing about you that few people know?
I'm a shy person. No. And you know, I was shy, a little bit introverted, a little bit of a nerd because I love computers and stuff like that. So,
Sure. Yeah.
you know, but I learned to come above that. You know, so.
Yeah.
But it's a growing process. You know.
It's not an easy thing to do that. Yeah.
It's really not if you don't focus on it. You know.
Yeah, I just meant it's not an
Yeah.
easy thing to break out of shyness. You know, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, like when I was in my freshman year at Tulane Engineering School,
Mm-hmm.
I was electrical engineering. I forced myself to run for class officer.
Wow. Yeah.
And I mean, that was really a push for somebody
Yeah.
who was, you know,
Yeah.
kind of shy and, you know,
Yeah.
a little bit introverted, you know. So,
Yeah.
so I did it. You know, I forced myself to step out.
Yeah.
You know, and it worked.
Yeah.
They elected me as the secretary treasurer of the engineering class.
There you go.
And I served for 2 years. You know,
Mhm.
I did it the second year as well. So,
Yeah.
but I worked my way through school, so I didn't have time to fool around a whole lot. You know.
Yeah.
But I had so much fun with my ATO fraternity. And one of my greatest loves is sailing.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned to be a racing sailor.
Oh wow.
And I had friends over in Pass Christian, the LUS family,
Mm-hmm.
and the Pass Christian Yacht Club, and they taught me how to sail fish boats,
Mm-hmm.
which was a club racing boat back then. So, boy, it's rough to learn from the top pros of the
Yeah.
club. Because
Definitely.
if you don't do things where you're in the middle of a race, you get called some names you never heard of before. So they'll curse you out during out for the race and apologize the whole way coming back in.
Of course, yes,
So,
yes.
you know. But I did 1 year in California.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was in California 68 and 69.
Oh wow.
No,
What a-
78 and 79.
Say what a time.
And lived in Marina del Rey.
Mm-hmm.
Loved all the boats. I worked as a national marketing director of William O'Neill and Company.
Mm-hmm.
So I sold institutional investment research to the big trading firms.
Wow. Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff, when you see a chart of where a stock is
Sure.
going or something, that comes from Bill O'Neill originally.
Oh wow.
You know, they take copies out and excerpt it for stuff that they try to promote.
Yeah.
But I sailed with the California Yacht Club, because when I told them I was a member of the Southern Yacht Club and I was part of the racing crew, they said, "Oh, come on," you know. So they got me to join the CYC racing committee for what they call the Sunset Race Series. And every Wednesday night in spring, the early summer, they would race 100 boats, ocean racing, off Los Angeles,
Wow.
off the Marina del Rey. And they would have just one race. And then they'd award all the trophies back, then have dinner at the California Yacht Club and award the trophies and stuff. So
Yeah.
there's no long series or anything
Sure.
like that. But it was fun.
Fun.
But I worked the committee boat since I didn't know anybody with boats.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked all the positions on the committee boat. And the guy who was running the thing had this Hewlett-Packard scientific calculator. Well, it's more than a calculator, it's a small computer.
Sure.
And he handicapped all of the 100 boats. And he said, "Well, I'm going on vacation next week." So I said, "You do the last one." So he threw it in my lap
Yeah.
with the book. And I said, "I got to handicap 100 boats, and I'd never done it before." I
Yeah.
said, so he showed me how to do it, so I got him done. You know,
There you go.
so.
Very
But
cool.
it was fun. You know.
What inspires you?
People, the Lord, you know, the good things that the Lord has to offer, you know. So, and as I used to tell people, one of our visiting priests from Corpus Christi, Texas, he said, "Folks," he said, I just want you to understand something. He said, "All you have to do in this life is choose your accommodations for eternal life. And the choices are smoking and non-smoking. You get to choose." I said, "Okay, wish it was quite that simple, but yeah." Thank you.
What achievement are you most proud of?
Well, like I said, all the things I've done, I've tried to make a major contribution, or at least something notable, wherever I've been, you know. And I was proud of, especially proud of being able to bring the medical surgical supplies to Warfront Hospital. And it was really fun too, though, because we went to Zagreb with $500,000 worth of medical surgical supplies for the Children's Hospital of Zagreb. And out of that, they were able to do all sorts of things. I mean, because they were treating some of the 200,000 badly damaged children who are also orphaned. You know, they had both of their parents killed in the war. So, I mean, it was just really a sad situation. But I got to go to the Zagreb Rotary Club. First night I'm there. And Zagreb was a beautiful place. You know, they show it. You know, they showed it in the Bond movies and stuff like that. You know, pulling into this train station, Zagreb. You know, and it's not really Russian. It's more of a Slavic thing, but it's about as far from Russia as you can get as far as what their culture was. They didn't have communism. They had what they called Titoism, and Tito mixed the best of capitalism and communism, so he got what he wanted. You know, so it was kind of interesting. But Zagreb was a beautiful city. Zagreb was the Paris of the Slavic speaking people. And I mean, beautiful buildings, colored buildings, beautiful architecture. I mean, you know, the place was a dream to go to. So I said, hey, this is great. You know?
Definitely.
Yeah.
How would you like to be remembered?
Well, somebody said something about organizations that I've been in. They said, well, you know, somebody told me before I came in here that it's better, you know, we want to know that when we leave, we've left it better than we found it. And hopefully that's the way we should do for what the whole world is, for our life, you know. And somebody said something once that I never really thought about, but he said, you know, what you say is hardly ever remembered. I mean, most people don't have perfect memories. I mean, I've heard fantastic sermons and speeches and everything, and to pick out the final details of them, you know, just a couple hours later, you know, it's not. He said, but people always remember what you do. So what you say is not as important as what you actually do. So, hey. So people watch you and you never know, you know. One guy came up to me in church in Metairie, where we used to have our CCRNO Wednesday night meetings, and he said, you know, he said, the way you praise the Lord, you know, it really inspires me. And I said, well, that's great. I've never seen him before in my life. I never saw him again. And, you know, sometimes the Lord sends you angels, you know. So.
One final question.
Okay.
Describe yourself in 3 words.
A child of God.
Oh, wow. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. Keep it simple. Yeah. Say, Jesus, I love you. Jesus, I trust in you. Jesus, I surrender to you. That's the hard part. I once asked a priest, I said, what's the hard part about being a priest? From your word, you know, your words. He said, well, it's not celibacy is what a lot of people think. He said it's obedience. So that's what the Lord wants out of us. He wants obedience, you know. He said, if you love me, keep my word, keep my commandments. And then my Father and I will come love you and reside. You know. Praise God.
Awesome. Good job.
Thank you.
Done. Thank you. Appreciate you coming in.